Enjoyed the reporting here from Dennis Dodd and Matt Norlander, CBS Sports, on this NIL college basketball tournament that we've discussed previously, but excellent reporting in here from Dennis on this tournament in Vegas that will pay each school's collective $1 million or more and could reportedly include San Diego State. It's nearly finalized, Dennis, and thank you for hopping on. According to your reporting, it's nearly finalized. When do you expect this to get done, and will it get done?
Right now, it's in a week. Yeah, I do think it'll get done. We weren't able to identify the 8th team, but we do have the 7 that are pretty much locked down for this really one-of-a-kind tournament. And when it does get going, it will threaten to I guess, have some upheaval in the preseason non-conference space because, the Maui Invitational sort of rules that Thanksgiving week. If this thing takes hold, it will be in direct competition for the Maui Invitational for the top teams in the country, for a large part because of what you mentioned. They're going to pay each of these teams $1 million that will go to their collective and then be paid out to the players, and perhaps more in bonus money if they win.
According to your reporting as well, and Dennis Dodd is with us from CBS Sports, what I found really fascinating was you're talking about schools that potentially commit for multiple years, right? Maybe 3 or more years. And like you said, some of these schools, because these are blue bloods or some of the sports powers, a lot of these schools do participate in a field like the Maui Invitational. So what does it mean to get potentially not just 1 year, but potentially multiple years from these programs? Why are they committing for multiple years? Because of the guarantee to these collectives?
Well, yeah, that, and it's significant because NCAA rules state that you can only play in one of these, they call them MTEs, multiple team events, once every 4 years. So if you can lock these teams up for a period of years, and look, I don't know if we're there yet, but I think that's the plan for some of these schools. It is Vegas. There's money. You don't have to travel quite as far, although nobody's going to complain about going to Hawaii in November. I think that's the play. I think it becomes direct competition for some of these MTEs.
Dennis, what does it say about San Diego State? They got an invite to this tournament.
I think that because of who they are, because they are, it's not worth, beating around the bush. They're a national program. I think under JD Wicker, the AD under Brian, they've become that way. It's close. There's money involved. I don't think there's any shame in that. I don't want to say that. I think they should be honored that they did get invited and they did accept because of the accomplishments they've done. So, good on San Diego State. Maybe not a traditional blue blood, but absolutely headed that way.
So how is an event like this potentially paid for? Because traditionally, you think non-conference tournaments, like you said, MTEs, and there's some phenomenal events. There really are, but there's, you're not thinking 20,000 people at MSG or at T-Mobile. Now, maybe an event like this changes that perception. As in, where does the revenue come? Ticketing, television? How do they find this revenue?
Yeah, I don't think it's ticketing. I mean, the Maui Invitational is played in a high school gym
right.
or whatever it is, a small college gym over there. It ain't butts and seats. I mean, I think there will be some ticket revenue involved, but this thing is underwritten by a private equity firm called Redbird IMI, and it's a subsidiary. I'm getting deep here. Subsidiary of Redbird Capital, which is the founder and the CEO is Jerry Cardinale, who I met in December in Las Vegas. He's a fascinating guy and kind of gave some insights into how undervalued college sports are to private equity firms. If people don't know who those are, they're probably in your portfolio if you have one. They invest in businesses that they can buy low and sell high. They expect a return on investment. Some of these investments are 20, 30 years long. And I'm not saying that's what this is, but there was a really interesting story on 60 Minutes last night about this private equity firm called KKR. And they had gone into a garage door company in rural Illinois and did an employee payment plan as part of the sale, as part of the buying and the sale. And these people made a 6X return. Some of these employees that have been there 20 years. Again, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I do think that they think this is a worthwhile long-term investment. Redbird IMI, the private equity offshoot, here is headed by one Jeff Zucker, who you remember is CEO of CNN.
So when this tournament presumably gets underway here and everything's finalized, where do you expect this to be viewed? Like, how do you think people are going to be able to watch this tournament once this is finalized here?
Well, according to our reporting, it looks like it's going to be on a stream. Quite clear, but this is the kind of event that appeals to streamers. They're just kind of dipping their toe in it right now in terms of major sports. The NFL has Thursday night football on. Apple Plus has Friday night baseball on. This is a one-off event that they can see how it goes. They would be a financial partner in this as well. I'm not smart enough to know how the ratings for this would pay off. I do know, I think we all know, that streamers were good enough to keep the Pac-12 together, but we're starting a one-off proposition. We're not trying to get rights for an existing conference. So it looks like it's going to be on a streamer.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, with us right now. John and Jim talking about this NIL college basketball tournament reportedly coming to Las Vegas this November and including San Diego State, involving at least $1 million for San Diego State's basketball collective. That's the Mesa Foundation. The winner of this event could receive an additional $1 million as well. Dennis, is this the new frontier, as in what's happening potentially in Vegas? Could that impact other multiple team events? Could it even impact college football and bowl games in the future?
Well, don't think of it as the new frontier particularly. Think of it as how creative you can be with NIL. I wrote a story last week about how the state of Missouri has this very unique law that as soon as you sign, if you're an in-state athlete, as soon as you sign a letter of intent, you can begin earning NIL benefits, all on the up and up. So, in other words, for like 7 or 8 months before you even get on the practice field, you're earning money. You have to do something for it. That might be a car, it might be autographs, it might be something else. But because you're a Missouri athlete, you can get NIL benefits. And it helped Missouri land what some people are saying is their best recruit ever, this edge rusher, Williams Gawarni, who is a 5-star out of the western part of the state. So it's really about, I think this is a symptom of how people are starting to get more creative with NIL, and the fact that the NCAA really has no jurisdiction on it anymore. It is until something else comes along, de facto play for pay. We might get there pretty quickly with this revenue sharing proposal that's coming from the Power Four conferences, but not yet.
Very, really fascinating. So as you know, Dennis, because you've reported on it, it feels like each summer this decade, there's been this massive landscape shift. Texas, Oklahoma, SC, UCLA, Pac-12 last August. Are you expecting that to continue? Will we get more shifting this summer, or is that still, down the road potentially?
Yeah, I don't think anything this summer, but you've got those existing lawsuits against their own conference from Clemson and Florida State.
Yep.
And those seem to be the next, whatever happens with those and how that plays out. Some things think that, it looks like, just cutting to the chase here, they can buy their way out of the ACC eventually. They can negotiate out for some sort of figure. If they leave, then Miami leaves, and there's a blueprint for North Carolina, maybe for Virginia. And then that collapses the Pac-12 and it becomes a Power 3 instead of a Power 4, and the Big 12 absorbs some of those schools. Or the ACC just continues along without those schools, and the diminished state, and maybe isn't a Power 4 conference. But I think that's the next one to watch. I guess in terms of what we've been experiencing, it could happen fairly quickly. When I say never about this summer, you never know. But there are look-ins built into this new CFP agreement that seem to account for something like this. I call it the Florida State rule. There's language written into the new CFP contract, which again, obviously begins this year with the 12-year deal. Trying to remember the word. If there's any substantial, I think the word is substantial movement and realignment, the contract can be reopened. I would say if Florida State and Clemson got out of the ACC, that would be substantial. There's also language written in it. There's an automatic look into the contract, or it could be adjusted in 2027. So, yeah, I do think there's going to be more movement.
Just going back to San Diego State real quick here, Dennis. You mentioned, in your eyes, and one of the reasons why they're in this tournament is because they're a national program, and making the national championship game a couple of years ago put them at that level. Is this something that we're seeing with San Diego State, where it takes a couple years, but now we're seeing the perks of making a national championship game, and because they made the national championship game, they get to be involved in things like this, and in the future, it's because of their run they've had over the last couple of years.
I think it's way more than that. I mean, San Diego State, since Coach Fisher, has more than established itself. I don't have to tell you the success they've had. Yeah, did getting to the Final Four in the championship game matter? Absolutely. It's a recognizable thing. A lot of schools, I don't know, some schools didn't have a taste for this. It wasn't for everybody. Not everybody's playing Thanksgiving week. Some are, some aren't. But I think it says, again, I'll just repeat what I said. I think it's a tribute to what San Diego State has accomplished, that they were all in on this and were thought of to be invited.
Dennis, one more from me before you go, just back to realignment, but hitting on it locally. You reported on it. We knew it felt as if San Diego State was so close. And for a lot of periods of that time, nobody really foresaw necessarily the Pac-12 ceasing to exist, but that's kind of what happened. Where do you see San Diego State in this ecosystem with their investments, the football stadium, the successes in football and men's basketball? I don't know if the music ever stops, but if it does stop, where will San Diego State be situated?
I think San Diego State's in a good place. I think where we are now, the standard playoff, short of there being a Pac-12, which there isn't anymore, the Mountain West is clearly the best group of 5 league going forward because of the teams they have, San Diego State being one of them. And there is that automatic berth for the highest ranked G5. It will take extraordinary circumstances, I think, for any more than that from the group of 5 to be in there. But look, I think there's a larger story here, and I call it, writing love letters to major college football. Whatever form this takes, we've seen all this discussion about the Super League and maybe, as many as 80 teams going forward. I think it's going to be more like 50 playing at the highest level. You've got to be in a situation where you're going to be attractive to, frankly, the Big Ten and the SEC to be playing in their shadow, for lack of a better term. There are situations going on at the likes of Kansas, at Northwestern, where they're tearing their stadiums down to the studs and rebuilding at a cost of hundreds of millions of dollars. As I said, I've called that the love letter to major college football. Don't forget us. We're committed. We want to be in the big time. And I think that's where San Diego State is with the new stadium. I think Sean Lewis was a fantastic hire in football. We already know about basketball. And I think San Diego State's in a great place to be, if there is a culling of the herd in this next decade, to be one of those schools going forward.
Yeah, it's really well said. And as you know, because you've been to Snapdragon, right, Dennis? The stadium?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I love it.
You wrote about, and I was going to say, what makes San Diego State almost unique in even modern, even Power 5 football is they use the facility year round. It's really incredible the way they've been able to maximize revenue. I mean, Major League Soccer in 2025, they have women's soccer, they have concerts, they have motocross. Again, it's San Diego, so you can use it 365 days a year, which has to be a huge coup for the athletic department and the university. Dennis, we appreciate your time. I know it's been busy. Great reporting on this. We're excited here in San Diego to see San Diego State potentially in this event. So thank you for hopping on. We always appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right. Dennis Dodd reporting on an NIL tournament in Las Vegas, reportedly that will involve San Diego State.
Yeah, they're in a really good spot, as Dennis said. With Sean Lewis, the new the Snapdragon Stadium, the basketball program being where it's at. Yeah, I mean, it's all good things to say about San Diego State football and basketball right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's like sometimes I've said this so often recently, like you got to see the forest through the trees. And in the short term, like, man, so close to the Pac-12. But college athletics are evolving so rapidly that nobody really knows how and when music stops. Like, even if you're Give an example. Like you could be like you just said, Northwestern in the Big Ten. Is Northwestern going to be in the Big Ten 25 years from now? Or will the Big Ten shrink just to have the programs like Penn State and Oregon and Michigan maximize revenue, or Vanderbilt in the SEC? Like it's just constantly evolving and changing, and you just want to be well positioned, and they're well positioned. They have a new football stadium. They have success in football and men's basketball, and that's all you can really ask of them today because we don't know what tomorrow looks like.
Yeah, and with Sean Lewis, like there's excitement there. He has to go out and they have to win. Basketball, they're proven winners. Like Dutch, they're proven winners. That's why it's always funny when everyone like freaks out. They're like, I don't know, guys, there's a track record here. Dutch knows what he's doing. We still have to see what Sean Lewis can do and what he can do with this program. And that's all fair and everything going forward. And we don't know if this is going to be a 4-8 season or
10-4 season.
8-4 season. Like we don't know yet. So, but all in all, I mean, things are in a good spot for the athletic program.
Hear me out real quick. If San Diego State locks into an NIL tournament that guarantees its scholarship players $100,000, because $1 million divided by 10, 11, like let's just say 90, whatever, 90 grand. Okay. And let's say right now, I'm completely making it up, but let's say that doubles what they're getting. Okay. You know, you go from 50 to 100 to like 100 to 200. Mm-hmm. It kind of is, I mean, not to be cliche, it's kind of a game changer, because if one of the reasons is players are leaving for more NIL money, completely reasonable, like the same reason why people leave jobs. Again, if you're Lamont Butler, maybe you could go from 200,000 to $1 million, I'm making it up, or 200,000 to 600,000. Well, then maybe you can't stay by getting another $100,000. But if people are leaving because they can make 100 here, but they can make 250 elsewhere, well, now if your 100 becomes 200, maybe it gives you another reason to stay. And $1 million for a collective. I mean, again, for Kansas and Kentucky, they got that $1 million. Mm-hmm. San Diego State, like it takes a lot of work to get to $1 million per year for your collective.
It's like hitting a jackpot,
right?
Not like the big jackpot, but it's like just like, oh, I got a big chunk of money there coming in. It's great. It's always nice to have a big chunk of money come in, and you having to just play in the tournament. Like it's not like, oh, winner gets $1 million like it was in the play-in or the in-season tournament in the NBA.
Well, you get an additional. So
I know that's what I mean.
But
like,
you're right. Everyone gets $1 million.
If you're in, which San Diego State is, boom, here's $1 million. So right off the rip, you could go 0 in this tournament and you still get $1 million. And I don't know how much it would hurt the program if you lose one of these games to one of those teams.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're not going in a tournament with right. Like some of the worst schools as far as net ranking.
No, it's going to be right. Resume building opportunity. And not at all. The upside is absurd, the profile of the event. Plus, what if you win the event and you add in an additional $1 million? Plus, we're not talking about one and done. We're talking about being in it not just in 2024, but potentially 2025 and 2026. And what does that mean for San Diego State in the future? Like, will they be in Maui Invitationals? Will they be in other non-conference tournaments? But whatever it means is a good thing, because you look at the level of program included in the event, and for San Diego State also to be in it is only a good thing, obviously, for the Aztecs. All right,